Day 2 of NFL free agency appears to be wrapping up, which does not mean we don't have a Browns signing coming our way in the near future, as Andrew Berry and Dalvin Tomlinson decided at the fine hour of 11:30 p.m. Eastern, now is when we decide on a contract. Just God forbid they waited till the next morning. But we're going to break down the latest on the Cleveland Browns. Here is the free agency tracker. Ethan Pocic inked to a 3-year, I should say inking soon, tomorrow when the league year starts, $18 million deal. I like this contract. I have seen some slander for it. I get it. Working between Joel Petonio and Wyatt Teller is going to make you look good. But I remember when Ethan Pocic went down last year and Froholt had to step in. People were surely missing Pocic then, so I like this signing. And then there's the guy who I've been working really hard to try and get his name down correctly, Obo Okoronkwo, coming over from the Houston Texans. He is a pressure machine. Hopefully that can turn into sacks with Myles Garrett countering him. Dalvin Tomlinson, the big signing so far. 4-year, $57 million deal. I believe only 27 of it is guaranteed. So I look at it as a 3-year, $27 million contract. So if Andrew Berry starts to get, a little bit of the itch, a little bit of the nerve to cut a older defensive tackle, he could after 2, maybe even 3, or 3, maybe even 2 seasons. And then it is official now. Sione Takitaki is re-signing 1-year, $2.6 million contract. But the big one is Eric Tomlinson. So I want to hear from everyone. I said Eric? Yeah, Dalvin Tomlinson. I think of Eric Kendricks, his teammate. Dalvin Tomlinson. That is the big signing so far. Do you like it? Yes or no? After I said his name wrong, which, by the way, I'm not going to take responsibility for because I had to stay up late doing a video, so I lost some sleep. So I get one mulligan by there. But Dalvin Tomlinson, when you look at his stats over the last 4 seasons, I said it in my video last night, he is not a player that fills out the stat sheet. He is a player that's going to make good tackles in the run-stopping department. He is going to eat up your opposing center and guard and free JOK to spring into the backfield and make a nice tackle for loss. His PFF grades from 2022, he was the 14th best defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman overall. We're going to compare that in just a second to the Browns defensive tackle so we can really appreciate what this means for Cleveland, because his run defense, 63.8, it has been sliding down, at least in PFF size, since his rookie year with the Giants. I'm not overly concerned about that because PFF, you only use it when it fits your narrative. Here it does not, so PFF, they're garbage. They don't know what they're talking about. Now, look at Dalvin Tomlinson next to the other 3 Browns qualifying defensive tackles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an NFL starting defensive tackle, okay? Taven Bryan was milquetoast. He was right in the middle of the pack, 69, nice, but no, he doesn't even get the nice 69 joke. If he was good, maybe. Perrion Winfrey came on as of late, but I'm not ready to jump into bed with the idea of, yep, he's an every down starter at the defensive line. Jordan Elliott really shouldn't be on this team next year, if we're being honest. I'm guessing he stays on because he's still on a cheap rookie deal. But if someone comes in and wins over the job, he will be cut. I am excited for this Dalvin Tomlinson move. I think last night in my video, I was a little middle of the road about it, honestly, because it was a come down to earth from potentially getting Javon Hargrave, or even Draymond Jones, who I wasn't even super high on. And if it was if it was Cleveland giving the former Denver Broncos edge rusher 3-year, $51 million, I would not be doing somersaults over that. But at the end of the day, what did the Browns need? A run stopper. That was the goal of free agency in the draft, and they check that box with Dalvin Tomlinson. They could look to improve from Perrion Winfrey starting, which I think will be the case. Maybe add another player. I'm just spitballing right now. I saw Stephon Gilmore get traded. If the Colts are really tearing it apart, DeForest Buckner, welcome to the land. I mean, could you imagine Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, and DeForest Buckner on one line? Boom, Super Bowl brownies right then and there. Now, before we get to more news and rumors from free agency, we are trying to reach our next milestone here, 17,500 subscribers. And while Taven Bryan might not have been a nice 69th overall defensive lineman, I'll tell you this much. Being 69 subs away from 17,500 is pretty nice. But what I love even more is reaching that goal. So help me do that, and in return, you're going to get the best free Browns YouTube content out there. We've got more coverage for you guys coming here today as we're going to talk about some trades coming up next on the show, including Elijah Moore and even Hunter Renfrow. But first things first, today's Browns Report is sponsored by Athletic Greens. Now, I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day, and you can too when you go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I started giving AG1 a shot because I hated taking pills or vitamins each morning and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning, and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. I think it helps me with starting my day on the right foot and then just getting into a healthier lifestyle. I start the day with making one great choice, AG1. Also, covering my nutritional basis for the day couldn't be easier with Athletic Greens. All I do is just mix a small scoop of AG1 with water, and I drink it first thing in the morning. Poof, done. It also is really nice that it's less than $3 a day. It's a very effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then meet Athletic Greens. Now, they are giving you guys a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show, so make sure to pay him a visit when you're done with today's episode. Let's switch gears and talk about some trade targets, baby. So this is Elijah Moore. The former second-round pick out of Ole Miss has been the focal point of a lot of wide receiver trade rumors for almost about half a year now, right? Going back to last year when he requested a trade because he was being phased out of the Jets offense. He was not syncing with Zach Wilson, which no one was, let's be honest. But Allen Lazard is signing with the New York Jets, 4 years, $44 million, which, by the way, if him and Jacoby Myers both get $11 million, wonder what that means for someone like Mecole Hardman. Is he going to get $10 to $11 million? And if so, the Browns look at that and go, yeah, we could pay Mecole Hardman probably the same that Jacoby Myers just got, or we can trade for Elijah Moore and pay him his rookie contract for the next 2 seasons. So this is what's interesting. Dav, who is just a mythological creature at this point, said the Jets will not be trading wide receiver Elijah Moore after Josina Anderson replied to someone on Twitter who asked, Elijah Moore getting traded with Allen Lazard being signed? She said no. Well, here's what I'm going to say. I am old enough to remember when the New York Football Giants said, we did not just sign Odell Beckham Jr. to trade him. And we know what happened next. Here's my theory. Yes, teams might say they're not interested in trading players. It's a friendly reminder that they also don't want to announce that they are open to trading a player and then not end up getting a deal done. I think Josie got some intel of, no, we're not trading Elijah Moore because we're not actually 100% certain we're going to get Aaron Rodgers. Now, once we get Rodgers, well, then we got to bring his whole ensemble, which is a whole separate video in itself, and I think it's pretty dumb by the Jets. And then they might be open to shopping Elijah Moore. But until they have that done and in ink, I think they are going to try and keep Elijah Moore happy and not open up and say, yep, we are trading away or shopping our second-round pick last year or 2 years ago. Speaking of 2 years ago, here are his stats through 2 seasons in the NFL. It's pretty crazy to look at. The guy in his rookie season showed a lot of promise, right? 5 touchdowns in just 11 games for a rookie. The next year, he played in 16 games, and he had fewer targets, fewer receptions, fewer yards, and fewer touchdowns. Listen, Elijah Moore wanted out of the Jets. If he still wants out, I could see the Browns making an offer, and it sounds like Cleveland was pursuing him last year before the NFL trade deadline. So what does an Elijah Moore trade look like? I've kind of gone back and forth on this. A former second rounder who was relatively unproductive last year. Maybe it's a 4th round pick. I don't think it's definitely not a 2nd. I don't think it's a 3rd. So now we're in that 4th to 5th range. A 6 seems too low for someone who did show a lot of potential in his rookie season. So I'll cut the difference and end up at a 4th rounder. But would you do this trade for Elijah Moore? Cleveland has 2 4th round picks for what it's worth. Their own and one from the Vikings. So trade or pass, what are you doing if this is the offer on your desk? Could you imagine a wide receiver room of Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones? That is a sneaky good wide receiver class right there. A really good room for the Browns and Deshaun Watson. If you don't want to go out and sign Mecole Hardman to a $10 to $11 million contract like Jacoby Myers just got or Alan Lazard, you can go out and trade for Elijah Moore. Give up a 4th. Have 2 more years of his rookie contract and not pay 5 times, 4 times, whatever you have to do to get Mecole Hardman or some other free agent right now. Then there's this also. If you don't want Elijah Moore, could I interest you in Hunter Renfrow? Because it appears that the Raiders are open for business. They traded Darren Waller to the Giants, and now a lot of people are wondering, so what's the availability on number 13? Now, we all know that Hunter Renfrow is one of the better slot receivers in the NFL, and that's what Cleveland needs. It's also a good reminder right now that he went to a certain school called Clemson, and he played with Deshaun Watson. So if we're trying to reunite Deshaun Watson with Brandon Cooks or DeAndre Hopkins, I think we can toss Hunter Renfrow into that same category. 1,000-yard receiver and 9 touchdowns 2 years ago when he played a full season. That looks pretty tempting to me if I'm the Browns, and Hunter Renfrow could be got. And if Darren Waller went for a 3rd, I'm thinking you could get Renfrow for maybe a 4th. A potential free agent target that I'm sure will sign by the time you're watching this, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles in free agency, is CJ Gardner-Johnson. I just saw Philadelphia not long ago re-sign James Bradberry. Does that mean they're going to let Gardner-Johnson walk? Potentially. And with Cleveland missing out on Jesse Bates, him and Juan Thornhill are 2 targets to keep an eye on to be the next starting safety alongside Grant Delpit. Because like I just mentioned, Adam Schefter yesterday reporting that Jesse Bates is signing a 4-year, $64 million contract with Atlanta. That comes out to $16-ish million a season. So if Jesse Bates gets $16 million a season, I'm thinking Thornhill and Gardner-Johnson are in the $13 to $15 million range. There was a lot of smoke around Jesse Bates going to the Browns. Wasn't like the Falcons absolutely reset the safety market. He's just the 4th highest paid. So I'm a little surprised that's all it took to get Jesse Bates. So with that being said, if that was too rich for Cleveland and they were in on Bates, well, maybe Gardner-Johnson and Thornhill to the tune of $12 to $15-ish million could be something the Browns pursue. That's going to do it for us on today's show. No signings really just yet, but hey, if a signing does happen, we'll make sure you're covered here at the channel. So hit that sub button and miss no Browns free agency news.